Okay, so I thought this video could be about blood pressure because there's a lot of good signs associated with it, plus it's good information. And your deaf friends maybe have, high blood pressure or low blood pressure. So there's problems with both. So what is blood pressure? And number one, the sign. Why is it like that? Blood pressure is like this because it's the cuff that's going on to your arm. When you go to the doctors, you have that cuff. I have seen some deaf people go blood pressure. This is easier, and it's the cuff. I don't know that I've had anyone really not know what that means. So what is blood pressure? So blood pressure, because we're going to talk about whether it's high or not and what are those symptoms, but also having low blood pressure is bad too. Okay, so blood pressure is they're measuring the pressure of the force that your blood is pumping. And this is your heart. Your heart, you have it outside and it pumps. Your heart goes through those arteries. Now, you can do like veins, your veins, arteries are bigger. What if I take the heart out and I go, oh, there's a artery here, whatever, then I can describe the heart. I'll take it out. So anyway, so that's what it does. And so it says that this happens 60 to 100 times every minute. Wow, I didn't know that. Okay. And they bring oxygen, OX, or O2. A lot of deaf people do not know what that means, except if they've been in the hospital a lot and they come in there and discuss it. So O2 or oxygen, or you can just spell it if they really don't know. So anyway, so then there is your heart rate. It's not really your pulse. That'd be your pulse, but it's your heart rate, speed, heart rate. And so it says that the blood pressure is the power, because it's the muscle, big muscle, is the power your blood is traveling, in your body. And the heart rate is how many times that your heart beats every minute. Now, so then it talks about, so then it talks about the fluctuation. Like sometimes you can like take your blood pressure in the morning. Oh, it's low, it's fine, it's perfect. It's 120/70 or whatever. And then later in the day, it's higher. And so then they said, of course, there's several things. Your age, meaning medications that you're taking, and then changing how you sit. Are you lying down? Are you standing up? Are you sitting down? Crossing your legs? I always tell people, because the nurse does, when they have their blood pressure, they need their legs uncrossed. And so we just have a habit of doing that. So I always have to tell them, I go, uncross your legs before the nurse does. So anyway, so and also the activities, and that you're like, if you're all excited or you're mad, you're upset, or you're happy, anything, or if you're walking, you're running, your blood pressure is going to be a little bit higher. That doesn't mean that you have high blood pressure. It means at that time, at that moment. And that's why doctors, many times they want you to write it down on a piece of paper at different times of the day, or if you're doing different things, they want to know, what does it go to? Is it 160 if you're walking? A little bit on the high side. So that's what they do. So they always call it the silent killer, because people many times don't know. So you could have a heart attack, then a stroke. It comes from your brain, a stroke. So heart attack, stroke. And it's just this, or open 810 to your heart, and then you hit your hand. The same sign on your head and hit your hand. That's a stroke. Your heart can be enlarged. So you have your heart, and you can, this is it, and it can be, and so you want to enlarge it. Enlarge it. And there, oh, enlarged heart. You can heart failure. We've done this sign before. And it can, cause like kidney disease and just different, and or you can have kidney disease and not know, and can have a heart attack. So it says if you have a history in your family of high blood pressure, you could have it also. But it also, you can get more in depth because what are you eating? Is it your family, the foods that you eat, or is it because it's in your DNA history? My family on my father's side is a history of high blood pressure, so I have to be careful with that. I had high blood pressure. My doctor was very concerned, and so I was eating things that lower your blood pressure. I changed everything. I got off of sugar. I know, and bread, and it was just awful. Yeah, any crackers, I just love crackers. Anyway, so I got off of that. I was even eating tomatoes, which are not my favorite, but I was eating that because it lowered your blood pressure. And I was walking, and I lost 30 pounds. And I went into my doctor, and I thought, oh, it's going to be low. My doctor said, if you do not start using the medication, I'm going to send for an ambulance right now. So he goes, you're going to have a heart attack. And he goes, it's obviously in your family. So anyway, so I did start taking the medicine. Now I take my blood pressure every day, and if it's low, I don't take the medicine because it'll cause me to be, sleepy or just lethargic, don't want to do anything. And so I'll wait until it's a little bit like 130 or above, and then I'll take my medicine. Anyway, so this is a discussion about your friends and your family. So it says, I wanted to say what the symptoms were. So your normal blood pressure is 120 over 80. And I think now they've lowered that. They want it a little bit lower, more like a teenager. A teenager is like, 117 over 70 or whatever. And I think they prefer that now. You're in better health. But this is from the Mayo Clinic. But I think now they're trying to lower that number. But for our purposes. And that top number is when your heart is beating, when it's working. And then that bottom number, I'm just simplistic, and the bottom number is when your heart is at rest. So the pump is the top number, and when it's released is the bottom number. So that's how you know. So if that bottom number is high and it's resting, see, that's the dangerous point. Then they said if it's a little bit elevated, a little bit high blood pressure, it's 120 to 129, and the bottom number is 80. So it goes up to almost 130. That's elevated. I don't have to say high because elevated. Then high blood pressure, and it's the first stage, because this is a stage. You could do stage. So anyway, or you can even spell it stage 1. Is the numbers are 130 to 139 over 80 to 89. Get a little bit high. And then the stage 2 high blood pressure or hypertension, high blood pressure, so be pressure, tension, same sign. It's because it has the same concept. That's why it has the same sign. The top number would be 140 over, or higher, over 90 and higher. So, yeah. And that's my husband, right? So he is working really hard, but what he's doing is working for him. Mine didn't. So see, mine is in my family, and he is trying to change it with what he eats and his exercise and all that, and it is working. It's going down. Now, sometimes he has taken some medicine to get it lower because it'll get to a dangerous like 170 over 90 or 85, something like that. So that's scary. But that's gotten lower now because the first thing you want to do is lose weight. And to be able to lose weight, you have to change what you eat. So they want you to have more healthy, lower in salt. You can, eat natural fat, but really, if my husband is noticing, because he gets off of bread and any sugar, carb, anything that becomes sugar, and we've discussed this before, that a carb becomes sugar. So it's not just eating pie and cookies, but also what becomes sugar in your body. So carbs. So lower in the carbs, and it's mostly the bread and the desserts. Darn, that's my favorite, right? Another thing is not to drink alcohol because alcohol is sugar. The same as Cokes, even if you have a diet Coke, it's not really. Just stop. Just water, flavored water. That's what I do. I really enjoy my water, and if I drink anything else, it's almost like a dessert because it doesn't. I'm still thirsty. So, and you should manage your stress and your anger, and sometimes that's easier said than done. It's sometimes hard to when you're having a lot of stress in your life, but they want you to try to lower your stress, and so you won't get angry, because angry causes your heart to beat faster, right? Anything that causes that heart to beat faster is not good, if it's constant. And in your cholesterol, I have a little bit of high cholesterol. I'm trying to lower my carbs for sure. So trying to do that. So the next time I go to the doctor, hopefully it'll be less. But don't put yourself in a dangerous situation. Go ahead and take the medicine while you're managing all these things that I just said. Losing weight, managing your stress and anger, and trying to eat differently. Those are natural things that take time. So go ahead and take the medicine, and then check your blood pressure every day. Get a machine. They're not really super expensive. And then you write it down, and then you're going, oh, okay, so I find it this time. But if you are taking the medicine and then you're managing and you're noticing your blood pressure is getting lower, if it's 120 or below, you don't need the medicine that day. So you don't have to do that and then have the medicine have the side effects that are, negative, like making you feel like you don't want to do anything. You're just lethargic. That's happened to me. It's like, oh, did I take it today? And I'd forget, and then I would take it again, and then it's like, oh, I can only lay in the bed. And I'd call the pharmacist and go, oh, you probably just took too much. It's okay. It'll wear off. But it's because your blood pressure is low, and so you don't have the energy to be able to get up and walk around and do things. So low blood pressure. I already told you that I had cancer and I had chemo. This is the sign for chemo. I did not have a port, but it's the like the IV, the medicine going in. I had mine in an IV. So, but I still do this for chemo just because that's the sign that people recognize. Mine was an IV. My blood pressure, specifically one day that they knew about it, went really low. I was walking, I worked in a hospital, and I was walking to my treatment area, which was pretty far, but it was one hallway that was really long, and I was walking and walking, and then it's like, I just can't walk anymore. My body was just so exhausted. I couldn't do that. Tired, exhausted. And I sat down in the hall. There was no chairs. And the doctor came by and said, "Are you okay?" And I go, "Yeah." And so I just kind of waited there. And he says, "Well, are you okay? I need to leave." And I said, "No, you go ahead. I'm just going to sit here." And I sat there for a little bit, and then I walked a little bit, and then I sat. Anyway, when I arrived at my doctor's appointment and they took my blood pressure, it was really low. It was like 85 was the top number. I can't even remember. It was, I want to say it was like 60 or 50 something, 58, almost the opposite, like 85 over something that was the opposite of that. I can't remember now. I just remember that top number. So anyway, the heart rate was only 85. And so the doctor was very concerned. And so they said, "Can you stand up?" So I stood up and they took my blood pressure and it was still low. So I laid down and then I had to go and get an MRI. And then they put me in there and it's like a 45-minute, right? And then when it was finished, I was able to get up, and I guess my body was able to rest, and the blood pressure increased, and so they were going, "Okay, good." And so I got up and I felt okay, and I was able to walk back, without stopping, to my job. So be careful with the low blood pressure too, because that's just as dangerous, because that means your heart is not working at a powerful enough, times. It's right. So that's just as dangerous too. So don't let that fool you. So anyway, I wanted to give you this information, and plus there's so many wonderful signs that are attached to it and that you can discuss with your friends and your family. And so many people have high blood pressure now. So you could, if you see high blood pressure, I like pressure because that's the pressure cuff that they put on you, right? And you can push the button or however they use it, or they pump it. So high blood pressure, or your blood pressure in general, high blood pressure and low blood pressure. So anyway, I will see y'all later. Have a good one.